You have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to impact your client's life in all aspects.
The updated weight loss specialization will help trainers in many ways expand their career.
For the first time, we talk about the psychosocial aspects, the sociocultural.
You're going to be able to truly understand what your clients are going through when they have a specific weight loss journey.
All new information, new trends.
We were able to develop what we called personas.
To provide examples of what you might experience as a fitness professional when you encounter a client.
And build confidence as the months go by.
I'll feel more comfortable in my skin.
My self-confidence will improve.
Empathy is something that runs through the weight loss specialization.
It's about guiding people.
Regarding nutrition, regarding exercise.
I can go to bed at night knowing that I've done something good for the world.
It's great content and a blueprint for how to get results with your clients.
We put together a complete solution to help you, the professional, become the next weight loss specialist.
I'm Brad Dieter.
Ken Miller.
Casey DeYoung.
Wendy Batts.
Nolan Highland.
Mike Fanagrassi.
Welcome to NASM's Weight Loss Specialization course.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first Master Instructor Roundtable of 2021. My name is Marty Miller, Regional Master Instructor, and I'm here with my great friend, Wendy Batts, fellow Regional Master Instructor. How are you, Wendy?
I am fantastic. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, right? What a great way to kind of like just jump right into 2021. And, you know, we did a lot in 2020. I think that NASM as a company just looked at that change and figured out what we needed to do. And we shifted. We had virtual everything, right? We started these type of events weekly. We have our coffee talks. We have podcasts. We did a virtual Optima that was unbelievable. So again, it wasn't anything that was planned. It's just something we adapted to. And, here we are in 2021.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about what we have in store for the upcoming year, as long as they allow us to do this. And I think this particular webinar will be fantastic as a trainer to really kind of take two steps back and make sure that you've got a good plan in place. So therefore, you're going to be able to execute and deliver on things that you really didn't think was possible, because hopefully you sit down, you plan it, you make a plan. And then at that point, you've got like the blueprint, just like you do when you do an assessment with a client, and it'll hopefully help guide you through all of your goals and expectations that you have for yourself personally throughout the year.
Yeah. And when we looked at how we wanted to wrap up the year, of course, we want to talk about, knowing what's going to happen in the facilities where it's open. I'm in South Florida, so the gyms are open. And of course, you can see that uptick, even though we're still socially distancing. You can see an uptick, right? It's New Year's resolution. So I think, Wendy, we did a great job kind of getting our fitness professionals ready to handle that, increase in demand, and from their clients and their customers wanting to really set their expectations for 2021 and hit the ground running. But, Wendy, when you and I were talking, we were like, all right, a lot of times fitness professionals, they think about themselves last, whether it's their fitness, sometimes even their nutrition, because they're always in a hurry. But we wanted to make sure that we really covered what we want to do as fitness professionals in 2021 and make sure that we carve out a little bit of time here at the beginning of the year. So that way we have our strategies for success. And I'm going to age myself here. I have 3 boys that are 21 and my twins are 19. And I tried to grab lunch with each one of them this weekend and said, okay, guys, what does success look like for you in 2021? And of course, they're like, they had no plan. That's why they have a father, I guess. But really, it was interesting to sit them down and make them think about it, because to them at that age, obviously that's, doesn't seem as relevant. But, I think it's a great opportunity. And I share with them what I do towards the end of every year and how I create my strategies for success as well, knowing we have to adapt, of course, but at least there's a thought process and then we follow things up to see if we're on path.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, if you don't have a plan, then how do you know if you're actually, being true to yourself and your goals and growing as a professional? And I think that brings us to the very first point. When was the last time you personally did self-reflection? I mean, I know, Marty, you are wonderful at taking time to sit down and kind of map out how much financially you want to make and what you can do and ways to really try to grow whatever project it is that you're working on to take it to the extreme. Mm-hmm. I, on the other hand, really did not kind of get that kick until middle of last year where it was like, wait a minute. Now, again, with all, and I hate this word because we used it so much last year, but the pivot, we had to stop, change direction. And it's like, okay, now that we did this, what am I doing for myself personally? Because I know with the changes that happened that were out of my control, I wasn't ready for some of the more mommy me time, the homeschooling, the now taking everything online and really making that kind of leap of faith of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to make it happen. And this is how I'm hoping I can reach other fitness professionals to teach them things that I would normally do in live workshops. And so I think the self-reflection is a big one. I did that literally this week as well. Because again, I thought it was super helpful when I did it, middle of last year, and I wanted to start this year off right. But it is a difficult conversation that you have to have because, you're looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of yourself, and you really have to dig deep and be true to what are you doing great, what are you not so good at, and what can you do to find a happy medium and then grow from there.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that. And when we created these slides, I promise I had not taken this action yet. But, I can show people I'm writing things all over the place. I'm always carrying around 3x5 cards because people that know me, my brain doesn't shut off and I'm coming up with ideas and I'm texting myself and emailing myself. So, going back to some of the things that we have on our slide here is, do you write it down and what are your goals and all that? Wendy, I had to tell you, I went out and bought a new iPad Air because I need to condense all of my thoughts in a place that, that I can keep track of it and have, a system that works for me because, it's very easy to just kind of think of things. And if you don't have them written down, you're less likely to act on them. So one of the goals that I did this year, I kind of categorize them, I have my education and my financial and then personal growth is I need to find one way to organize all my thoughts instead of 12 pieces of paper.
Like these?
Exactly.
I do the same thing. I'm like, what is all this stuff? Yeah, don't make fun of my paper right here. But I write things down all the time. Like when I think of it, I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And I need to jot it down.
But you know what makes me feel good? This is, at the end of the day, I spend the time to rewrite my document because I feel good writing it and I feel good crossing things off and then reorganizing it. So I did the research. I know what applications I can use and to be more efficient. And then also now I have everything condensed in one spot and actually hopefully it improves my efficiencies towards some of my other goals. And, we were talking about what my professional and personal are goals. I did them for myself, but it all comes to all the thoughts that I run through my head every day. I need to make sure that I keep those organized because, sometimes it's very easy to think about it and then you never act on it because it's not in a place that you can continually monitor. Am I putting things in place to move me towards that goal or that objective or that whatever that is? Clearly, we have to adjust at all times. 2020 was a perfect example. But to me, the more organized you are in your thoughts, the better chance you have of achieving a higher level of success because that way, you're less likely to forget things and you're more likely to be proactive in getting after them when it's condensed and organized in a version that works well for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I think and maybe this is our age, Marty, because we still write things down instead of like put it in. I don't always, even my calendar is handwritten.
Our calendar is digital. I get that.
I mean, and so I do some digital stuff too, so I'm not that old school. But for me, even weekly, I sit down every Sunday and I look at my week and I plan it out and I set personal goals and professional goals. What are the things that have to get done? What do I need to work on so I'm not stressed out? I don't leave things until the last minute. But I think it's very important because if you really write down your goals and you're very specific, and often we have talked in the past about, performing a SWOT and a SWOT analysis. And again, that stands for, your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and your threats. And if you look that up and you really sit down, a lot of times it's talking about your internal business. Like, what can you do, like, professionally in order, because it's really things that you can change. But I think it's important to also kind of do a SWOT on yourself personally, because you'll see that there's a lot of things that intertwine, and then there's things that are completely different. And you want to find out, why are these things different and how important are they? And then what are your opportunities for growth? Where do you have threats on yourself personally as well as professionally? And then it brings us down to, writing out your goals for the year and 3 years, and where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I remember my mentor sat down, we were on a plane, we were actually going to present. It was the first time I had ever presented with him, so I was scared to death. And we were sitting there, and he asked me what my 1 year, my 3 year, my 5 year plan was. And I just kind of sat there because I had done like my yearly plan, like this is what I want to achieve this year. But when you have to sit down and you really have to plan, where do you see yourself from 5 years from today? That's really hard to do because, again, you're having to dig deep. You're having to think of where you are now and where do you want to be? And Marty, I know that you get this often from a lot of our master trainers, as well as some of our new trainers that are joining into the NASM community. What can I do to become you? How do I get to do these webinars? How do I get to present on live workshops? How do we get to present at Optima? And you really need to sit down and look at the requirements in order to become a master instructor. If that's truly your goal, what are the steps you have to take to get there? How many people do you have to bug? And then on top of that, are you kind of checking off the boxes, but is it also something that really you're passionate about? Because people say they want to do it, but when you have to see kind of the steps you take, it's not easy. And it takes a long time in order to, get to a certain level. And I'm using a master instructor as an example. I mean, obviously that's just easy to talk about because there's a process. Yeah. But it was very eye-opening when I had to sit down and even think, even further out, like if you want to go even 10 years from now, where do you want to be? I'm just hoping, not to be on a walker and still kicking and can hang out with my kid, so.
And two things, Wendy, that with what you're saying kind of jump out to me right away is the SWOT analysis is so important, but let's be honest, we're biased, right? Mm-hmm. Because we see things through our lens. Sometimes we're either too hard on ourselves or too, forgiving of ourselves. I would challenge you to find, if you have the right person around you, let them tell you what your SWOT is according to what they see. Wendy and I, we talk about, I promise you, as soon as we have done every one of these webinars, we hang up and go, how did it go? What did I say? How did I do? We're so self-critical, but we want to hear from somebody else that we respect, because you can be very blind to your strengths. Sometimes you don't know it's a strength and you don't really then push that forward, or you could definitely be blind to your weaknesses and opportunities and threats. And, Wendy, we've had with all of our instructors, that's one of the things that if anyone wants to ever work with NASM, you've got to be humble enough to hear feedback so it opens up for that opportunity of growth. And then the other thing that I thought about is this 1, 3, and 5. That's kind of dating ourselves too, because those were relative time frames before you could see things change as quickly as they do now. So, I think the 1, 3, and 5 is phenomenal, but you better have 3 and 5 1-year goals. In a sense, you better be a little more nimble nowadays than you had to be in the past. And whether that's, again, learning technology or doing other things. And there's so many new fitness applications that come out, fitness, I call them toys, products that you have to learn. And Wendy, we were talking about one today that I'm going to have to sign up and do the research on. So these are the things that you have to be very nimble with if you want to be relevant.
And that's true. I mean, again, I'm trying not to use that. That's another goal that I have. So I got some really good feedback. I'm trying to be more concise. But I think one of the big things for me personally is I have to write it down and I need to make it visible. Because again, I'd say it again, when I sit down and I'm writing out my goals, one of the things that I want to hone in on personally is what do I want to learn about? What is it, like, where do I feel that I may kind of not be, I just feel like I'm lacking education. Where do I want to grow? And what are things I want to learn about? What's out there in the industry? And I think you've got to find what you're passionate about. And I just took a continuing education course. I actually did it on January 1st. I sat down, I took a 4-hour Con Ed course on a particular modality, and I own one, but I wanted to learn more about it because I wanted to really make sure that when I'm using it with my clients that I was not going to put anyone in harm, obviously do no harm. And I also wanted to be able to program and provide the best type of programming I could utilizing that modality if it was something I could use and it was safe for the client to to kind of incorporate into their program. And to me, it was like, okay, I wanted to learn something, and today's the first day of the new year. Why not start off on the right foot and start growing my education from day one? And that's exactly what I did. My goal was, I wrote it down. I had a week plan. I gave myself a week to do it, but I was just so into the material that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to knock this out today. And my kid gave me the time to do it. My husband took him out to play, and it was fantastic. And so I think you really do need to write it down, put it on Post-it notes, like on your bathroom mirror, if you need to kind of, do something. I think also on some, self-talk, positive reinforcement, things like that, I think are really great to also have around. So therefore, if you're having a not so positive day, you can look around and see all these, positive affirmations. I think that's important. But if you don't write your goals down, you don't make it visible, and you don't go back and check throughout the year of what was it that you wanted to accomplish and where are you, like do quarterly check-ins. That's what I do. I think it's kind of eye-opening, like, oh man, I really need to do this, and I'm this far away from where I need to be in order to maintain and hit that goal that I really wanted to achieve in January.
Yeah. And the last thing that I'll add to this slide before we move forward is, I definitely 1,000% agree, find your passions. But what I've started to do is like find what I'm not passionate about and make sure that I'm not avoiding it. And there's going to be a cost to avoiding it. So I'm going to take that to my fitness. There's a lot of things I love doing in fitness. There's a lot of phases of training. I hate ankle mobility work. Hate it. Well, guess what?
Really?
I need stuff. Oh, because I need it so bad. It's horrible, right? It's just not fun. I don't feel comfortable. But that's now I do it first because I knew it wasn't my passion. I was avoiding it because it wasn't something I was good at. So just when you're looking at your career, whether it's corrective exercise or the recovery techniques, I'm going to challenge you to make sure you look at the things that you're not passionate about only just in case that's the way the industry's heading and you don't want to be potentially left behind. So that's just kind of, another way to think about, go after your passions, but just question yourself, why are you not passionate about these other things? And is there a price to pay if I don't at least bring myself up to some level of competence in that?
Absolutely. And I think that brings us to the next slide, because when we look at, we set these goals for our clients, and this is a slide that we've used in the past. And the reason we reused it, because again, I just keep saying this, I'm really working on trying not to say that. But why do many goals fail? When you're talking to your clients, it's easy to say, that is not a realistic goal, or, let's take 2 steps back and let's think about, why do you want this weight loss and why this time frame? But again, now that you're looking at it at yourself and you have to literally dig deep into that conversation you didn't want to have, are the goals that you have realistic? And I think really writing down your SMART goals professionally as well as personally will make a huge difference, because if we're having our clients do it to reach fitness goals, why wouldn't we do it for ourselves? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we aim too high, the goals aren't realistic. And like you just said, Marty, maybe it's not that important. Maybe it's something that might be Marty's goal, but it's not mine. But I thought it sounded fantastic when he was talking about it. So why wouldn't I write that down? But is it something that really relates to me? Is it really my goal? And if it's not, then I need to take it off the list, because just because something's important to someone else doesn't mean that should be your priority if it's something that you're not passionate about or something that you personally don't want to kind of use as your motivator. I think that's a big one. Yeah. And then of course you got to still schedule the time to do the things that you need to do. Again, I had to sit down for 4 hours on the first because it was something I didn't have to, but I wanted to. That was a goal of mine. You have to schedule out the time in order to achieve that. And even if it wasn't 4 hours at once, I could have broken it up. And it really is something that you've got to find the time for in order to make it happen.
Yeah. And Wendy, you covered this so well. I'll just add 2 points and I'll go back to my ankle mobility. I would say in the past I had a goal, but it's really more of a wish. I wish I had better ankle mobility because I wasn't fully committed in doing everything I need to do. I did more than most, but that's not what I needed to do to get to where I want to be. It's just one of those things. I may have to work harder than other people, but if it's truly a goal, then I need to put together a plan, stick to the plan, and I know I'll get there. But I can wish for it all I want, but if it's not set in stone and I don't have a true pathway to get there, to me, my terminology kind of stays as a wish. So that's just how I kind of view things differently. And then the other thing, when you look at people's time, you can tell what a priority is for somebody based on what they spend their time on. So when Wendy says make time, is we will always find the time for the things that are most important for us. So one thing is, don't overschedule yourself, and that way everything gets diluted. Make sure you're specific and targeted in your time to at least get the impact on the things that actually are going to have the best return on investment for you, or that are truly, truly your highest level goals. And then if you're efficient, maybe you can squeeze some other things in there.
Absolutely. Always go back to the SMART goals. SMART, SMART, SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable, SMA, are realistic and timely. So make sure that you are very specific. And a lot of times what I'll do is I write down like my block, and then I'll do kind of a SMART goal for each, if that makes any sense. And so like my fitness goals, like what are my fitness goals? What are, the things with my family? It's personal, but then what are the things on an education standpoint that I want to do? What are the things, so have little blocks, but make sure that each block that you have makes sense. You're passionate about it. And then you've got certain markers to hit in order to achieve those.
And Wendy, I'm going to pick on you here. So the people that are digitally savvy, which is probably 97% of people that have a digital.
I am digitally savvy. I just like to see things.
Fully digitally savvy. The reason I say this is I'm only picking on Wendy because is the company I work for, people just populate my calendar, right? They see that I'm available. So I purposely now block off time so no one can hijack that time from me. Where if I do my calendar and writing and things like that, all of a sudden I see a call pop up and like, oh, I got to take it now. Well, what if that wasn't a priority for me? So sometimes I block off creative time, and I'm the one that can adjust that time. But if I need to create and have time to focus on certain things, if I open my schedule to everybody else, so whether, that's how I need to work. But also when I was doing a lot of personal training, I would not take clients from 12:30 to 2, because that gave me time to eat, gave me time to do some administrative work, and gave me at least 45 minutes to an hour of a workout. For me, I'd rather work earlier and later to get that in, because that was when I knew I could get it in. So be selfish with your time and actually put those blocks in your calendar. So that way, whether it's your workout, whether it's your recovery techniques, whether it's, time just to be creative, put them in there, because now you're more likely to stick with it. Where if you just let your schedule kind of evolve and you're not in control of your schedule, you will never have the week that you thought you were going to have.
Well, I think that brings back to another point that I made a few webinars ago, and it was I set myself up for failure. And even though I professionally made very good money, because I did not do that. And I had set certain blocks, like Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I was going to start at this time in the morning. I was going to give myself an hour and a half break, and then I was going to finish by this time every afternoon. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I may work more mornings and more afternoons, depending on my client's schedule. And the problem ended up being was, even though I set certain blocks, I felt guilty when somebody came to me and said, I really need your help. My back hurts, my foot hurts, my knee hurts. I really believe you can help me. Can you please help me? And when I looked at my schedule, I was completely booked unless I started to shorten my scheduled time for myself. And then before I knew it, I was working from, sun up, which means I started at 5:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't finish my last client until 8 o'clock at night. And I realized I didn't eat, I didn't work out. I mean, I'm handing weights, I'm demonstrating all day, I'm doing things all day, but I wasn't doing the things that were healthy and good for me. And that's how trainers, you get burnout. I mean, again, financially it was fantastic, but then I had a really hard time saying no. And I want to stress that, because that's something that truly happened to me personally. And then I needed to make some major changes, because it wasn't good for my family life, my personal life. And I was working nonstop. I was a fantastic trainer. I was helping a ton of people, but I wasn't helping myself. And if I'm not true to myself, and am I really walking the walk? And the answer was no. It's more of, you do as I say, not as I do. And that's not good, because I'm telling my clients, you need to take breaks. You need to stretch throughout the day. You need to work out. Everyone's got an hour out of their day that they can work out. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not even doing this. So I'm saying this, but I'm not living the life that I'm trying to get my clients to live in order to be healthy and happy and, and thrive in whatever it is they wanted to do. So I just wanted to throw that story in again, in case people didn't listen to past webinars, because I think it's very important. It's very easy not to schedule time for yourself, but you need that in order to be able to be truly the best trainer you can be.
And then it's easy to get resentful and or burned out or both. So
absolutely.
Awesome. So let's move towards the next slide here and continue this awesome conversation. I'm biased though. So, I'll jump in here first. So I had this conversation with my boys, but this is a great gut check for all of us is, what are we doing to advance ourselves? Are we on a career path? Are we happy with our path? Do we, everything's moving in the right direction? Are we totally away from where we should be? Going back to the SWOT analysis, what's our strengths? What's our weaknesses? What should we be developing in preparation for what we can see coming? And is there anything we need to prepare for what maybe is it that we didn't see coming? I know that's hard, but I truly believe the more education you have, you become a little more bulletproof no matter what happens in the industry. The marketing yourself, this is something that I would struggle at if I switch careers. I'm not somebody that has a niche on Instagram yet. It's not something that I feel comfortable with. I work for 2 different companies, and that would be one of my weaknesses and or opportunities. So these are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself as of today, at the beginning of 2021. Go back to the 1 to 3 to 5 years. Do I know what I want to do? And again, one of my boys, I have no idea what I want to do. I said, great. That means you should be involved in everything. Dabble, take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, go volunteer here. Now he's at his age, he can do that. But even within this career, whether it's corrective exercise, performance, weight loss, spread out your time and energy and education on a lot of different things. And then you may find what your main focus is. But definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So we're just trying to challenge you here to think a little differently at the beginning of 2021, so that at least that way you're out there thinking it through a little bit and seeing where this path takes you.
And I think that's an important point, Marty, because I know if there are a lot of business courses out there that you can take if you want to kind of grow your business a different way and you need help, and maybe that's not your strong point. You switch careers, and like you said, Marty, you worked for a big company, so they do all the marketing and that stuff for you. But when you become a trainer, you are your brand, and I think it's important to really connect with people that may be really good in areas that you are not strong in. So for example, I had a really long meeting with a wonderful person in marketing and wanted to know, what are really good strategies that you have that's made you successful? What are things that you've seen that have, really kind of blown people up, meaning, they're really not growing their business, they're kind of stagnant. And a lot of it is, if you are going to be involved in social media, you've got to be involved in social media. And I think that's a big thing. People start this online business and this online platform, and they're gung-ho for the first few weeks, but it has to be continuous every day. Meaning that if you're going to do this Motivation Monday or this Workout Wednesday or this, Fit Friday tip or whatever it is, and you guys are welcome to use that because I just threw that out there. But if you're going to do that, then every Monday you need that motivational tip, and every Wednesday you need to put a program out there. You've got to follow whatever it is, whatever you plan out. You've got to be active in order for people to really want more each and every time. And I think that was one of the things that I heard on a marketing standpoint where people begin to fail. They end up, they have all these people at once that come to their website and they're active, and then all of a sudden the numbers start dying out. And it's mainly because the content is stale, or they're just, if you're not active for a week, people notice that. They come and visit and there's no change, then they're going to go to somebody else that are obviously, changing and being innovative as much as possible. Now, again, when we say being innovative, that's also meaning being smart in your workouts and your programming. You don't have to come out with some of these crazy exercises like check me out. And I think that brings us back to always following specific type of programming for individuals. Have a person, if you're going to provide a workout, have a particular persona of someone, and then provide that workout for that individual, and help a trainer out that maybe is new working with youth or somebody with osteoporosis. What would you do for someone with that type of population? Like, be creative. And I think I wanted to throw that out because, again, when listening to this marketing person personally, I was like, that is fantastic advice. I don't personally have my own website, but I wanted to learn more in case these questions came, people were asking me questions. It's like, you know what? I'm not that expert. However, this is what I found out by talking to people. I think building your community is really what's going to help advance yourself in your career. Knowing your competitors, who's out there. If you have a niche, who are the big hitters in that niche and what are they doing to be, like taking over that space? What can you do to be competitive with those people? And I think that, again, is a reality and a wake-up call, but it's very important. Know the other people that are out there, be specific in what you want to do, and then at that point, follow the right path in order to help yourself grow. Because if you don't have that plan and you really don't, you're just kind of stuck like, well, I don't know how to market myself or motivate myself. I'm just going to get on social media. That's not a plan. That is that's a reactive thing. I'm going to throw some site up there. Here's my logo and let's see what happens. That is not going to set you up for success at all.
And I think the biggest thing, if you're going to go into social media or even marketing, I've learned this from our big company, but it works with some of the influencers that I know are very active in the fitness space on, social medias. Most of them draw out a calendar of what they want to put out there. It's not accidental. There are times and situations where something looks cool right at the moment and it's just reactionary, but they have a calendar of events that they know, okay, this week I'm going to talk about this week. So that way, at least there's a framework. So they're setting themselves up for success by drawing it out, thinking it through and having a plan. It's not just, hey, what do I feel like talking about today? Now, there are people who've done that, but more and more of the people that are really influential, they do follow a script in their mind, even though it doesn't come across that way to all of us following what they're putting out there.
Well, Marty, I think that also kind of intertwines when we talk about, have a plan with your clients. Mm-hmm. Again, you're looking at an assessment, you're finding out where the compensations are, and then you're thinking to yourself, what muscles are overactive, what muscles are underactive, and how do you design a program specifically for that client to help them maximize movement? I think that's the end goal for a trainer or a client. Well, I think for yourself, you have to also do the same things. You're going to look at yourself and be like, okay, where are my weaknesses, which would be like the underactive muscles, and where are my overactive muscles, and what can you do to really kind of grow yourself? And I think you're right, having a plan. But if you are just a trainer that just goes in and you know this client, and you're just going to throw exercises kind of out there, you don't write it down, you don't really have a purpose to the madness that you had your client do that hour, I don't think that's beneficial for the client. It's really not fair to the client, but you may have gotten away with it. So think about long term, is that the kind of trainer you want to be with your clients? The answer is probably no. You want to have a plan. I think you want to also do that for yourself, whether it's around marketing, whether it's around, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Have a plan, write it down. Like you said, Marty, like take it, make a calendar, and then plug and play. It makes it so much easier, and you become more organized as well.
Is that a digital calendar, Wendy, or just paper calendar?
It could be both.
Okay, let's check.
I have both. I like to look at everything like at once, just to get all out there.
Totally.
But Marty, I think, one of the big things I wanted, this is, I think, the last bullet I really want to stress, because I think you are the best person to stress this. You think about a number in your head because you're a numbers guy. For you guys that don't know Marty, Marty is a numbers guy. Probably drives his wife insane because of it. Hey. However, I said probably, I don't know that for a fact, but
it's given, trust me.
That's not always a bad thing. However, you want to think about financially. So Marty, how in your head do you think of a number and then kind of work backwards? Like, how can you help people be you without being you?
You don't want to be me. Be careful, because everything to me is an algorithm and a formula. It's just strictly mathematics. And that's how I take emotion out of things, and I just strictly look at the information, just like I would with an overhead squat assessment. It doesn't matter how nice somebody is or how mean they are. If their knees adduct and internally rotate, I know what that is and what the systems I need to put in place to fix it. So when I'm looking at numbers, again, it comes down to, am I looking at, how much money do I want to have in a certain, time frame? How much do I want to make per year, or what should my sessions be? I just always reverse engineer everything in a sense. So if someone told me, well, I want to make $100,000, my first question would be like, okay, how did you pick that number, and what are you currently making? And if they just say, well, it sounds like something I want to do, Like, okay, well, that's great. So let's reverse that. How much you charging per hour right now? How much do you get to keep? What is your, average training sessions in your best year? Let's assume that you're only going to hit 80% of those sessions this year. And I start to do the math. It just comes down to simply a formula. And the numbers speak for themselves. It's not my opinion, anybody else's opinion. It's just factual. But I think a lot of people go into their year going, okay, I want to make an extra $10,000 this year. Well, what are you doing? What's your plan? Where's that income coming from? Is it something new you're going to offer? And if it's something new you're going to offer, where are those hours coming from? And, it's just simply in that realm. That's exactly how I do it. And then I just let the numbers fall into line. And then from there, I can say, okay, the probability of this happening is great because, I'm within 2-3%, or, hey, no matter how hard I work, the numbers just don't add up. I'll never be able to do that. So then I would reshuffle the conversation and say, okay, if that's truly the number, can you do something different? Can you get into maybe small groups? What can you and what are you willing to do? And, or if it's not obtainable, okay, let's reset the expectations. So at least we're moving towards an obtainable goal. So there's no disappointment or frustration when that goal is not achieved.
And that, folks, is just as simple as that.
It's numbers.
You explained it very well. And I think that blends into kind of our next slide, because we have this idea in our head of a career path. But what are you personally going to do to advance yourself to get there? So like you said, Marty, if somebody is charging, and I'm making this number up, but let's say they're charging $75 a session. And in order to hit their financial goal, they would really need to increase that to like $100 a session realistically. Yeah. But if you haven't changed anything that you're doing, you're not offering something new, you're not continuing and advancing your education, you're not promoting yourself, you're not marketing hard, you're not trying to get new clients. And like you said, maybe providing a whole nother area of training, like you said, group training, which we talked a lot about, or boot camps or something, you're not offering something new, then you are not going to just grow, because we had no idea in March when the things hit the way that they hit that was going to happen. And so a lot of people took financial hits because of layoffs and things that were out of our control. However, some of us ended up really kind of maintaining our business, because I didn't do anything besides, now I wasn't doing in person. I went to FaceTime and, utilized technology, really didn't miss a beat, charged the same thing. It's still the same hourly rate. I'm giving them the same service. I'm showing them show, tell, do. I'm counting. I'm doing everything the same. But you have to be able to say, listen, let's take it online. Let's go and be able to say, I'm not going to charge you anything different. Now, if you did decide that you were going to change your hourly rate, or you were going to do something, then maybe that's when you have to be creative, like Marty said. But don't think that because you have a number that it's still not achievable. But then you have to look at yourself personally, what you can do to change it to increase the amount you're making hourly. Or if it's not realistic in goal in year one, maybe that should be your realistic end goal in 3, and give yourself a plan in order to hit that number in a way that's not going to sacrifice your personal time or other, take away from other things that you need to do in order to be present in the moment that you're in, right now.
Yep. And 2 things I could add is, we didn't put this in here, but I've quoted this many times. There's a E versus E ratio that I heard of a long time ago. It's entertainment versus education. So they're talking about people that after they get their first degree, the average adult will spend 50 times the amount on entertainment than they would education. So they looked at the people that could grow their careers, could double their salaries, and they realized that if you took it from 50 to 1 to 5 to 1, you still have the 5 times as much entertainment as you did education, but you took it from 50 to 5 to 1. You doubled your salary on average. And that's from Brian Tracy. You can look it up. So there's a lot of good books, and one that I just have sitting next to me, Napoleon Hill, this book, I don't know how old it is, Think and Grow Rich. It's not about what you might
I have that up there as well.
Yeah. So it just, it talks about procrastination and all these things. So everyone wants to achieve a certain level of success. It's just, are you going to put the time, energy, and effort in? And are you going to work smarter, not just harder? There's a lot of hard work, but are you setting yourself up as your career goes to eventually get to that smarter work? And again, going back to, my boys talking about education, degrees, and careers. Yes, I'm very biased to the formal path because it's worked for me. And I just believe it's the one thing that no one could ever take away from you is education, right? You could lose your house, you could lose your money, but your education and your knowledge is yours to keep forever. So every time you put another advanced degree or anything next to your name, it's not about just collecting them. It's not, that's not the point. It's, I now can, generally speaking, apply for another job that somebody else can't. So I'm keeping myself more of a targeted person to hire because I've shown the work ethic, I've shown the dedication, and I may have unique skills that the other people applying either now can apply for that job, or if they apply, you have that edge and advantage. So I just always tell my boys, life is challenging enough. Let's make it as easy as possible. So that way you have the best opportunities possible. So that same thing in our career here is the other thing that I've challenged people to do is take 5% of your income or less if you have to, and earmark that for education. Now with NESM and there's a lot of opportunities to not have to spend that much, but if you took 5% of your income and in 3 to 4 years doubled your income, would you not think that that was a great investment? But a lot of people are like, oh, I hate spending money on continuing education. It's like, why? That's going to give you the opportunity to go earn what you're asking or wanting to earn. So if you ever in that boat where you don't think continuing education is worth it, challenge yourself and say, wait, am I being short-sighted, or is this truly an investment in myself that for a couple $100 or maybe a few $1,000, if you go get advanced degrees, what does that do for me 10 years from now?
Well, another great point is, like you said, if people aren't really excited about continuing education, then maybe you're looking at something that's out there that's an offering that really isn't your cup of tea. But there are so many different courses that are out there. Obviously, I really like the NASM courses. During COVID, I personally did the CNC. I did the new CES. I had the old one, but I wanted to see some of the changes and learn more about the mobility assessments. Our new weight loss specialist I think is fantastic. NASM provides a lot of really good courses, but if you're not really looking for something that's going to give you a different specialization, there are these mini courses that are out there that NASM offers all the time for free. So we're not asking people to take a ton of money and throw it into their education if, for example, you were laid off and you're now trying to kind of rebuild, because we know that when COVID hit, there was a lot of struggles. Gyms were closing, people were losing clients. There was so many what ifs. However, to Marty's point, you really need to invest in yourself because, like you said, Marty, your education is never going to go away. But the more kind of tools that you have in your toolbox. I mean, again, I just did a continuing education course on something that I knew very, very little about, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I wanted to know more about it. I didn't sit there and look at what can I look on a continuing education course and be like, oh, this is something that I already know a bunch about, but just so I could hurry up and get through the content, I'm going to take this. Or, oh, this one's offered for free. I could really care less about working with this population. However, I'm just going to do it for the credits. If you have that attitude going in, it is not a continuing education course that's going to help you grow. It's just something in order to renew your certification. And again, you need to take 2 steps back and think to yourself, is this something that is going to enhance your growth? Is it something that's going to enhance your business? And if it's not, then look at other courses, because there are a ton of companies and a ton of courses out there that you can do. And again, if you're listening to Marty and I every week, which we hope you are, there are going to be continuing education courses just off of our webinars. So hopefully you're learning more and more about the OPT model and growing yourself personally and professionally. But you can also get Con Ed credits for just listening to us talk. Educating you.
Exactly. Cool. I think we covered this slide well. Anything else on this one, Wendy, before we move forward?
I think that's it.
Beautiful.
That brings us to aligning our pathways. I think we talked about this from pretty much slide 1, but you've got to look at, where are you professionally? Where are you personally? And do your paths cross? And if they are completely different, then you really want to step back and look at why. And I think that's a big one, because if you want to be here, but personally you're here and this is pulling you one way and your career is pulling you another, then you're not going to be happy. You have to enjoy what you're doing, I think, professionally, because when you come home, it affects you personally. And so if you're miserable at work and you come home and you're miserable like with your family, then it's just, you're miserable. And that's not fun for anyone, and it's not healthy. And I just want to reiterate this, because I see a lot of trainers struggle with trying to make their clients happy, and they feel like they're always having to be on. And when they come home, they feel like they don't have to put in the same effort. And that's really not a good way of looking at it, because your family should be the most important thing. However, you need to be positive when you're working with your clients, or you're not going to have any clients. So I think, you've got to really invest the time in money into not only yourself, but into your education, into your growth. Because if you're happy at work, you're going to be happy at home. I think they really do coincide and go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think Wendy, you covered all the key points on that slide, or we've covered them already. So I don't need to reiterate too much. Just the key thing is, now's the time of year to kind of go through your plan, check a lot of the key points that we talked about, carve out a little time to self-analyze, and then put together a plan and, put it in action. And let's see what 2021 can do when you really kind of are proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely. And if we go and look at that slide, Marty, one of the things I know for myself, I really enjoy conferences, but it was hard for me to schedule conferences in. And now, again, with Optima being 100% online last year, and we're not really sure exactly if they're going to do a hybrid or what's going to happen, just because the future is still so, like, no one really knows what's going to happen in the next upcoming months. But I think, really trying to attend conferences, really build a community of people that you can personally reach out to, I think is huge. But another really big one that I felt really guided me and helped me along was to have a mentor. And I personally 100% cannot reiterate the importance of having someone that you believe in, that kind of is living the life you want to live, and help them help you, or like let them help you grow, and listen and offer advice. Like what were the steps that they took? And I truly believe that's something that really helped me. And I will internally grateful for my mentor.
Same here. And I've got a couple, but I couldn't agree more.
Yep. And then, spend, time with people who can help you professionally. I mean, again, that kind of really is more of the mentor as well. But Marty's like my work husband, as well as Ken Miller, who is another one of our regional master instructors. I talk to you guys constantly because I think you guys personally help me grow. We talk a lot about work. What can we do? What can we do different that we didn't do last year? How can we grow this week by thinking a different way that we didn't think about, And so I think really trying to surround surround yourself with people, and I'm going to say this, but people that are smarter than me. You guys challenge me to try to be smarter. And I think I love that push. And that's another thing that I would strongly suggest.
Yeah. And I always, say, you become the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you need people that can challenge you in all aspects of your life for positive. And Wendy, I said this before I met you, when I got the invitation to maybe be an instructor for NASM. I said, you know what? If I can end up in that group and be the dumbest one on that team, I'm good to go, right? Because I knew the positive effects that I would grow just by being around those type of minds and people. So absolutely find people that can challenge you in that, positive way, and just watch what happens to your career for sure. Absolutely.
And then again, considered some advanced degrees and specializations. I know we've kind of been talking about this all day. And I know one of the specializations that really helped me grow my business very quickly was personally the corrective exercise specialist. Because at that point, even though I was working with professional athletes, I could really kind of help people get rid of injuries and pain. I mean, and that wasn't my plan. I'm not a doctor or anything, and they didn't come to me to quote fix pain. However, it just kind of happened. They were like, this is uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, let's roll this, let's strengthen that. So I became the person that quote fix people all the time, and that really enhanced my business. But I would have never been able to kind of dig as deep as I have without taking that particular specialization. And then, of course, going through and get my master's through Cal, it gave me credibility. I learned a lot. I got to meet a bunch of different people. And so I think, again, really looking at the ways that you can grow yourself, focusing on the things that excite you. So therefore you can really get into your niche a little bit more and differentiate yourself in order to be, what's going to make you different than somebody else.
Correct.
You've got to have some kind of factor that's like I'm going to go to this person. What makes you that person over this other person? I think that's extremely important. And I really believe that degrees and specializations, higher education is going to help you kind of set yourself apart.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say to add to that is 2 of my stories are, when I got my master's, my doctorate, I was asked, what are you going to do with this? I said, I have no idea. I didn't. And I didn't care because I figured what bad's going to come? What's the worst thing that's going to come from it? And because of that, I'm here. When I got my master's, ended up working back in professional baseball with my dream team as a young kid. And then my doctorate's gotten me other opportunities. I had no idea. I just believed in that education is that, as I always say, Wendy, race with no finish line, that if you continue to check the boxes, you're more likely to have a better outcome. So I've never worried about exactly what I was going to get from an advanced degree or credential. It's always just kind of worked out.
It always does.
Exactly.
And I think, if we go to the next slide, we're going to just talk about overcoming challenges. You need to have a clear plan. And I said this in the very beginning, I'm going to say it again. You have to revisit and modify your goals. If you started out in January and you really thought that this is something that, you want to achieve by December, and maybe it's too easy of a goal. Maybe, like I said, I already did one on January 1st, and it was just to kind of get into more continuing education that was outside of my comfort zone. And, I've already knocked one of them off, even though there's other ones other courses I want to take. I think being able to really look and dive deep into where are you within your goal, looking at it every month. Is it going to happen in March versus February? Is it going to happen? If it happens in February and you plan it in March, then maybe you can add another goal. Set small goals in order to achieve the big ones. I think that's a really, really important way of living your life. And then, just be true to what you're passionate about. Because if you really are just doing it for the sake of doing it, like you said, people are just taking Con Ed courses because you're like, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready and my certification's due in a month and I have to just get some courses done for my Con Ed, and it wasn't planned out and you're just taking it for the sake of taking it. Is that really benefiting you? Yeah, you're continuing your certification, which is obviously very important. You need to be, credentialed, but is it something that, you did with passion? I would probably question that. I don't know how you feel about that, Marty.
Well, you're going to spend the same amount of time anyway, so you might as well do it on something that's beneficial. And that comes back to having your yearly plan. If you're going to need your 2.0 CEUs, you're going to spend that much time. Why would you not do it on something that either helps a weakness, solidifies a strength, but something you're enjoying the process and it makes sense? The reactionary part is like, well, I could have used this time so much better if I'd thought it out. You're going to do the time anyways. You might as well have a plan to get it done and have the best positive impact.
Absolutely. And then the last one is don't make any excuses. It's really, really hard when you hear a client come to you always saying, oh, I couldn't make my appointment because I had this going on, or they have all these excuses. And finally you're like, no more. You need to set a goal. This was your goal. I'm here to help you achieve it. Well, I'm going to say the same thing to you guys as well. Write down your goals. Make sure that they're specific. They follow the SMART goals. And then at that point, we would like to hold you accountable as well. I am holding myself accountable. Marty holds me accountable. I tell him what my goals are, and vice versa, because you have to have accountability. And if you don't, again, maybe you tell your partner, like my husband knows what my goals are. And if I'm, eating a cupcake and my goal was to lose weight, he would be like, okay, that's probably not going to help you achieve your goal. It makes me feel guilty. And then I put the cupcake down. So just some things to think about. These sound so common and like, oh, this is like, it's so simple. However, when you really do your self-evaluation, it's amazing what you find out about yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's where it's going back to the SWOT analysis, having somebody else doing it, getting a different perspective. Somebody, and again, those 5 people you hang around, have somebody that will hold you accountable, that you respect, and that the message will be delivered the right way. But, that you're not left to go through this journey on your own. So it's always good to have teammates, partners, accountability partners, et cetera, that, keep you in check, like we tend to always give each other a hard time with.
Absolutely. And that brings us to our key takeaways. And these are often, we've said a lot in 2020, but if we kind of look at the new 2021 self-reflection, really take a deep dive into yourself, be very specific. Again, think about the SWOT analysis. So again, what are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats? Look at that on a career standpoint as well as education. Reassess every month. We say this with your client. Are they ready to move up in the phases of training? Well, are you ready to kind of advance into whatever the next part of that goal is? Have you set yourself up for success, or have you set yourself up for failure? And if so, make that change right then and there, because you're giving yourself time, because you're reassessing every month. I think that's extremely, extremely important. And then if we look at some of the other points here, just to kind of wrap this up, adjust your goals as needed. No one knew come March 11th of last year what was going to happen. And pretty much when everyone was pretty much locked down, we had to make adjustments. So adjustments are going to happen. Sometimes it's in our control. Sometimes it's out of our control. Be flexible, but still be specific. I think also setting goals that are hard to accomplish really makes you stronger as well. Like, don't set easy goals. I think, if you want to lose 10 pounds and 10 pounds is really hard for you to do, set that 10-pound goal. If you're like, okay, 5 pounds, because I can probably do that in a month, it's easy. It's not that important to you, but you're just throwing it out there for the sake of throwing it out there. That's really not important. And no excuses. Again, accountability is everything.
Yep. I agree with every single one of these bullet points, hence why I helped put this together. You made it look really nice, but I agree with all these. And, I think we've covered all these key points throughout the webinar today. And, just really kind of hope that if there's one key takeaway, you take a little time, if you haven't already, before 2021 gets out of hand and gets crazy with schedules, that you just carve out a little time to go through even 1 or 2 of the key points that Wendy and I brought up today.
I agree 100%.
Awesome.
Well, that was fun.
Yes. As always.
Well, if you guys want to, contact Marty or myself, the best way, if you want to reach out to me via email, it's wendy.bats@nasm.org, or you guys can find me on Instagram at wendy.bats13.
And then my information will pop up here. It's Instagram, dr.martymiller72, and email is marty.miller@nasm.org. Excellent. Well, what a way to start 2021. Before you know it, we'll be like 4th of July, and then we'll be talking about Christmas and the holidays again. So I know this is going to be an amazing year, but just like we talked about everybody else, we're going to have to create our plan if we haven't already and stick with it. So I'm excited to see what 2021 brings us. I know we've got some really cool things coming, but it's always going to be an interesting, fun year.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun. Can't wait. So thank you, Marty, for sitting with me for the last hour. And we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you throughout 2021. Have a good one.